Is it me, or is there something in the air? The good old days of music and fashion. With a number of indie rock veterans returning to the stage and releasing brand new music in the past 12 months, as well as a number of emerging and up-and-coming talented artists flying the flag for guitar music, could indie rock music be enjoying a resurgence at the moment? All I'll say is recent events have got me feeling like I'm back in 2006. That sense of style, substance, sound, and naughtiness. Pardon the pun. Get it, because the era was known for its debauchery, but it was also the noughties, the 2000s, whatever. Is something that a brand new generation of fans are discovering and actually resonating with. But the question is, why now, and why did it fade away in the first place? Let's discuss. Now, going back to those indie rock veterans that have risen from the sludge and have subsequently released brand new music in the past 12 months, the likes of Arctic Monkeys, The Strokes, Hot Chip, Two Door Cinema Club, Arcade Fire, The 1975, The Cribs, Kasabian, The Killers, Paramore, and I'm certainly missing a number of artists off that list. Dazed Publication also seems to agree with me on this indie rock revival theme, stating that we're just one Razorlight America cover away from a full-on indie rock music nostalgia revival. Can't really put it more concisely than that, can you? Bands like The Strokes are still managing to pull huge crowds. Here in London, for example, this summer they are headlining All Points East Festival in Victoria Park, despite having a TikTok trending song or a radio hit in recent memory. Arctic Monkeys, though, did have a TikTok trend, although I'm not sure they're actually aware of it, but the song 505, released all the way back in 2007, went viral on that platform. And that was towards the back end of last year, despite the song being released all the way back in 2007. And I find it hilarious considering the band don't even operate on social media. The Cortinas also made history recently. If you were a 90s kid born in the north of England, then I'd be very surprised if you hadn't heard of the band The Cortinas. This great Manchester indie rock band actually recently re-released their debut album, St. Jude, to celebrate 15 years of the album. An indie classic, I might add. And well, it went to number 1 of the official UK charts in 2023. Now that is just crazy. But not only does there seem to be a resurgence of the indie rock veterans that made it big in the noughties, but newer up-and-coming independent indie rock bands also look to be garnering quite a bit of attention also. Take the band The Raytons. Yeah, I know, I hadn't heard of them either until a couple of days ago, to be honest. This 4-piece indie rock band from Rotherham has actually managed to hit the number 1 spot with their second album titled What's Rock and Roll. And what's even more crazy is that these lads are unsigned. Yep, they're independent artists doing it off their own back, garnering attention through word of mouth and, well, simply making songs that seem to be resonating with people. The reason why I find this impressive is that major labels tend to control what's hot in music. Because they're so big and powerful, they just pump money into advertising and they essentially just tell us what's trendy and tell us what we should be listening to. And the fact that people seem to have just made their own minds up independently about this band and gone, yeah, I think they're quite good, I quite fancy a bit of that, is just fantastic. Now, on top of that, we've also seen guitars seep their way back into mainstream pop music, with artists like Billie Eilish, Phineas, Olivia Rodrigo, Maisie Peters, all finding mainstream success with the electric guitar at the centre of their sound. And yet again, we've got indie rock veterans turning up, like Hayley Williams writing songs for Olivia Rodrigo. Hell, even Miley Cyrus is flying the flog for indie rock. Flying the flog? Flying the flog. Hell, even Miley Cyrus is flying the flag for indie rock music at the moment. You know what I'm thinking here? A resurgence is definitely on the cards. Even in the realm of fashion, mid-naughty style outfits look to be making a bit of a comeback. That slightly dishevelled bad boy or girl, just got out of bed, not really trying kind of look that Alexa Chung, Pete Doherty and Kate Moss and those alike used to rock back in the day, we're starting to see more often. Now, this kind of aesthetic is coming back, but under a new label. I believe the kids are calling it indie sleaze. I don't know, maybe we've all realised that modelling ourselves on Kim Kardashian probably isn't the way forward. So why is indie sleaze returning? Well, to understand that, we probably need to understand why it went away in the first place. See, towards the end of the 2000s, indie rock music became the mainstream. and hence the market for this music just became oversaturated. Major labels caught on, saw the dollar signs, and then before you knew it, everything that was coming out just sounded like a carbon copy or clone or a tribute to the original great songs that were made by the bands of the time, like Arctic Monkeys, the Libertines, the Strokes, the list goes on. And as a consequence, indie music just became really formulaic. So formulaic, in fact, that the country's biggest manufactured pop band, Girls Aloud, actually started dissing the indie music scene for that very reason. Their song Hoxton Heroes actually perfectly summarises what happened here. Lyrics like, "Don't kid yourself, you're an indie clone, we've seen it all before, get a sound of your own, so let's try a bit harder because you need more than jeans and a parka." Are just some fantastic two-liners, really witty but also really telling of what was going on in the indie scene at the time. In summary, I guess the indie music scene just became far too commercial and less potent and varied as a result. The original message was lost and people began looking elsewhere for music that was relatable, raw, down to earth, and just meant something. And at the time, the growing world of hip-hop was the answer for many. Fast forward to the present day, and the Indie Sleaze Instagram account reckons that people want something that's going to wake them up, shake things up, and make them feel alive and present. But I think it's a bit more than that. I think it's all got to do with community, familiarity, and actually the current economic downturn. What made indie rock music exciting in the first place is that it sounded raw, it sounded DIY and, well, independent. Bands were singing about where they were from and the struggles of everyday adolescent life, albeit relationships, friendships or financial. And it shone a light on the north of England and some of the more regional areas of the UK. Being in a band and playing real instruments just makes the songs sound intrinsically less produced and more rough around the edges. And maybe it's a dose of realness that everybody is yearning for at the moment, given the frankly flawless, robotic and somewhat sterile sound of the modern day pop song. Everybody loved the fact that Alex Turner from the Monkees sang about taxi ranks in his Sheffield accent. Everybody loved the fact that Oasis had that Manx swagger, singing about cigarettes and alcohol. And everybody loved the fact that the Libertines could barely play their instruments, but at the same time write some of the most compelling, intellectually stimulating and beautiful lyrics that the industry's frankly ever seen. And it was all the product of independent artists singing about stuff that they've experienced and stuff that they knew. And that is an absolute world away from the centralised, politically correct, profit over people, quantity over quality, consistency over creativity, corporate machine that is fueling modern day pop music. What a breath of fresh air that is. So, given the current economic downturn and impending recession, are people starting to resonate again with the lyrical themes and angst that you typically find in indie rock music? Let me know if you think we're on the brink of an indie rock music revival or not, and let me know why. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you do fancy watching any more of my videos, I'll put a link to some that you should watch next. Thank you ever so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.